What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you an expanded deck centered around the combination of Archie's Ace in the Hole and Blastoise, commonly known as Honorstoise. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, as it helps us out a lot and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, so Honorstoise, or Archie's Blastoise is commonly known as Honorstoise and was popularized in, man, I can't even remember, I think it was 2015, I want to say? Yeah, with Jacob von Wagner at the 2015 Worlds, when this deck, or not this exact deck, but this Archie's Blastoise combination ended up winning the World Championships. And so it got me thinking about how I came across this deck, why I have such fond memories of using this, and why I always try to bring a new version into every new format that I get into. And so it made me remember that this was actually the first deck that I ever watched in a competitive TCG game. And so my question of the day is, what was the first ever TCG game that you guys watched? Whether that be like competitive, whether that just be on like the Game Boy, like what was the matchup that you first really like discovered and started playing the TCG to where you are the avid fan that you are now? So I do remember my first exposure to the TCG was like the CD-ROM in a serial. I don't remember what serial it was, but the Pokemon TCG CD-ROM was my first exposure to it. But then I just kind of stopped playing it. It wasn't as fun anymore. So all of a sudden in 2015, I was getting really bored of Smogon and competitive Pokemon. So I was trying to look for some other way to really just play Pokemon and just a different aspect of it. And I was thinking, you know what, why the heck not get into the TCG? And so before I jumped in, I started doing research, like, okay, what do I need to know to start being successful? What type of cards should I look for? What decks should I try to build? And so obviously the first place that I started was with the World Championships or the most recent World Championships, just to see what decks were relevant. And the matchup was Night March versus Honorstoise. And so I was like, wow, this is a really cool combination. Like, Night March is pretty cool, I mean, being able to hit all those numbers, but Honorstoise is just a combination that I'd never seen before and never really comprehended. Like, to me, in order to get a Blastoise out, you always had to play the Squirtle down and then either Rare Candy or play a Wartortle into a Blastoise. Like, this combination of being able to get a Blastoise onto your bench turn one was so foreign to me that I was just fascinated with this deck. And that's why, to this point, I've always tried to make a different version of Honorstoise with the most recent cards in the meta. And so yeah, that was the first real game that I ever watched in the TCG apart from the CD-ROM. So what was the first competitive TCG game that you guys ever came across, whether that was you playing it or watching it or reading about it? Just let me know, what was your first introduction to competitive TCG? What was the main deck that was focused on in that? I would really love to hear well, first of all, how long you guys have been in the TCG, and really what got you into it. But anyway, onto the deck. Like I said, it's centered around the combination of Blastoise and Archie's Ace in the Hole, and by this point, y'all already know what the purpose of this deck is: to get your hand down to one early on so that you can play Archie's Ace in the Hole, bring Blastoise straight from the discard pile onto the bench, and then use a combination of water attackers, whether that's Palkia, whether that's Articuno. Keldeo is the main one, just because attaching a ton of water energy to it increases the damage output that it has. But with the newer sets, you have things like Volcanion Prism Star and Wishiwashi-GX. And so, I mean, there's a whole myriad of tech options you can do. I believe the one that this version was based off of, from 6 prizes, I will link it in the description below, had Tapu Fini and Suicune GX, I'm pretty sure. But I decided that I wanted to try out Wishiwashi and Palkia, just because, I mean, I wanted to give Palkia a little bit more love, just because it's one of the mons that is usually foregone. I mean, to be fair, Keldeo is pretty much better, but Palkia has 10 more HP and 10 more attack. So that's kind of why I decided to throw that in there, just have a difference of weaknesses on the team. So yeah, I'm just going to go in the order of mons that we have and why we have them. Just basically the whole strategy: play your hand down to one, and get out Blastoise. That is the whole strategy of the deck. It's fairly straightforward, but pulling it off is the complicated part. Like playing the right sequence of cards to get your hand down to one is really what makes this deck work or makes it not work. And the main cards that we use to do that are 2 copies of Shaymin-EX for setup, just to be able to have them on where you're like, okay, I don't want to use my draw supporter for the turn just because I want to save that for Archie's Ace in the Hole. Shaymin is a great way to have a Pokemon do that, just be able to play that thing down, drop your hand until you have 6, and I know it's kind of counterintuitive, like why would you want to draw cards? You have to play down your hand. Well, sometimes you need to draw more cards in order to get access to the resources that would allow you to discard your hand down to 1. So that's why there's 2 Shaymin there, single copy of Tapu Lele, just because you want to Lele for the right supporter at the right time. If you have like an Ultra Ball and 2 other cards left, well, you can Ultra Ball into Lele, into Archie's Ace in the Hole. A single copy of Palkia as an attacker, copy of Sudowoodo for Roadblock. This really helps out, particularly in the Zoroark matchup, makes it a lot more manageable because otherwise Skyfield with Zoroark is insanely difficult for us to deal with. 2 copies of Exeggcute for propagation so that we can manage the discard cost. As you can see, this deck is very heavy on cards that have you discard cards from your hand, like Ultra Ball, Computer Search, and Superior Energy Retrieval. And in some cases, you don't want to necessarily discard from your hand because you're like, well, these are resources that I like having. Like, I only have 1 card in my hand. How am I supposed to play it down? Well, Exeggcute lets you manage that by propagating once or twice, depending on how much you need to discard in a certain situation. Single copy of Articuno for Night March, just to be able to turn single prize Night March attackers into 2 prizes, can completely turn the game around. 2 Keldeo for just being the main attacker of this deck. Secret Sword, attach a bunch of water energy onto it, and additionally with Rush In, you're able to just bring Keldeo in off of the bench to get out of like sleep paralysis, stalling out, whatever. Single copy of Volcanion Prism Star, because Sauna Blast is actually pretty nice for 100 and then 20 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and then Jet Geyser is kind of nice to act as like a pseudo or like a one-sided escape rope, just force your opponent into something on their bench that they might not necessarily want to have there. Copy of Wishiwashi-GX to have a big, bulky attacker. Also, Wishiwashi is kind of cool because its GX attack allows you to hit for a gigantic one-hit knockout in a lot of cases, but also preserve your energy so that way you're not just putting all of your energy into the active slot, forcing your opponent to play like Lysander or Guzma in order to try to take out your energy, which means they don't get a supporter for the turn. And then 2 Blastoise, because that's what this deck revolves around. We need those Blastoise. As for the items, absolute max number of Battle Compressor, because our discard pile is the resource in this deck. Like, it is basically where we get everything that we want to use. I mean, we get Blastoise there, we get our supporters there, we get our energy there for Superior Energy Retrieval. We get our Exeggcutes there too. Like, that's just where we want to set up, and if we get our discard pile set up properly, then we will more than likely win the game. So that's why absolute max number of those. Single copy of Computer Search. I do want to mention that my Computer Search right now is lent to Johnny. I do these deck profiles after I record the games, just in case I make any changes to the deck throughout. So you do have the final copy of whatever deck that I am running in that current live. But yeah, Computer Search, you definitely want that. This deck relies entirely on getting the puzzle pieces out, and Computer Search, if you open up with Computer Search, that can all but guarantee that you do start with a Blastoise. 3 order pads, because either you get a certain item from the deck that you want, or that's just another card that you play down, so it's just kind of a whatever it flips, it can potentially be beneficial. I mean, obviously you'd rather flip heads than tails, because then you can just get something like Ultra Ball or Trainers Mail that can potentially get you better stuff. But yeah, order pad is very nice. 4 superior energy retrievals for not only discarding, but also getting our energy back later in the game. Like if one Keldeo is loaded up and it gets knocked out, well, superior is our way of getting that all back. 4 Trainers Mail to go through our deck. 4 Ultra Ball to guaranteed get the mons that we want when we want it, in addition to discarding cards. 4 VS Seeker to reuse our supporters. 2 Rough Seas as the stadium of choice to heal off the damage of like Keldeo and our water Pokemon. Now granted, things like Palkia cannot use it, but considering we're more than likely attacking with water Pokemon 90% of the time, that's why it's beneficial. one copy of Acerola just to pick up energy, put it back into our hand, and then just deluge stuff down. It's nice for if Keldeo gets heavily damaged, we can just pick it up and immediately play all the energy back to Ace in the Hole because we need Ace in the Hole for Blastoise. One Guzma because Guzma is amazing. And then as for draw supporters, 1 N and 2 Juniper, just so we have access to those for after we play Archie's Ace in the Hole, and we just kind of want consistent draw support and not last card in the hand type. And 1 Fighting Fury Belt and 1 Float Stone for tools, just longevity, a little bit of boosted damage, and for retreat, and then 11 water energy. So yeah, that is a deck, and let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have got one against a Golden Lion CR with, what was that, like a grass, or not grass, water, normal, yeah, grass, and psychic deck, so honestly no idea what we are up against. We do unfortunately lose the coin flip, so I mean, unless we can get... Wait, why is my opponent letting me go first? Well, I start off with... Actually, this could work depending on if I get the Order Pad, because if I do flip heads on the Order Pad, then that will put me in a phenomenal position just because I will be able to get exactly what I want. But first things first, let's Battle Compressor, get rid of 2 Exeggcute and a Blastoise, just because, I mean, that really sets things up nicely, lets me control what I have to, what I discard, what I can, like the resources, what I have to discard from like the discard draws like Ultra Ball and Computer Search. So yeah, let's just go with the second one. Unfortunately, we do flip tails, so let's see, can we get something that we... Okay, so there's a Float Stone. Unfortunately, I did not throw an energy into the discard pile, so I can't use the whatchamacallit. I can't use the Superior Energy Retrieval, and crap. So I will not be able to pull anything off this turn, so I'm just going to Juniper, get a fresh hand, and... Okay, this is something that I can definitely work with next turn. Let's just play down the Keldeo, play the energy onto it, and then pass. My opponent is playing Articuno, so I'm interested to see what type of deck my opponent is running. I mean, obviously it's a water deck because there's Articuno, but I really am not sure. They play Order Pad 2. Wait, are we in a mirror match? That would actually be hysterical if we were in a mirror match, because I legitimately have not come across I haven't come across one of these decks in months. Like, legitimately, I have not come across an Honor Stoice deck since... Oh, geez, I couldn't even tell you. Maybe even last summer was the last time I encountered an Honor Stoice deck on the ladder. So, my opponent is going to go ahead and Lele for a Sycamore. Well, I mean, at least neither of us were able to set up anything, so that is pretty nice at the very least, so we don't have to worry about... Well, I mean, unless my opponent had, like, a Computer Search in there and they were just throwing the Sycamore into the discard pile. But yeah, it's just nice that we don't have to worry about our opponent getting anything set up immediately. So, yeah, the fact that my opponent let me go first is kind of biting them in the butt right now, because they are not able to attack right off the bat. And, yeah, they're just setting up their... deck as much as or their discard pile as much as possible. The fact that I do have Sudowoodo is phenomenal, because that does mean that my opponent only has one more bench spot to work with, whether that's with a Shaymin or with a Lele. Just they need one spot for the Blastoise, otherwise they just kind of auto lose, because this deck really doesn't have any way of dealing with stuff once Blastoise goes down. Or yeah, well, if you cannot get a Blastoise. So okay, how do I do this? Let's Computer Search for an Ultra Ball, I think. So let's Computer Search, get rid of both of these for... Yeah, I think just grab an Ultra Ball. And then I kind of want the Palkia, just because that thing has a little bit extra HP, and also allows me to, yeah, hit a little bit harder. Just that 10 extra hit points could be a big difference. And do I want to grab anything? I don't think so. What do I want to grab? Nah, let's just play the Palkia, leave myself with one more bench spot open. Let's Archie's Ace in the Hole, get a Blastoise, and let's see if we can get a knockout this turn, which, wow, we definitely do. So how many energy are in there? There are 3. Let's Battle Compressor to throw at least one more in there. So yeah, let's throw one. Do I want to throw Acerola? Or how do I want to do this? So I think, yeah, I don't need Lele anymore because the only supporter left in my deck is Acerola. And let's just get rid of that Battle Compressor. Yeah, because I want to thin out my deck as much as possible so I can maximize my draws. And here is where we're about to go absolutely nuts, because I will be able to get 7 energy into my hand on this turn and attach all 7 of them. So it's just a matter of how do I want to spread the energy around. Like, do I want to just put it all on Keldeo, go for the one-hit knockout, or do I want to put it on Palkia? Because I'll need... How much HP does Articuno have? Only 120. So I can just throw 3 energy onto Palkia, and that'll work. So I think I'm going to throw a decent amount... Wait. Aw, come on, TCGO. Are you actually making me press Deluge literally every single time? That's going to be super annoying. So yeah, let's just click Deluge like 20 times to put the energy onto Palkia and onto Keldeo. So yeah, I think I'm just going to put 3 energy on Keldeo to start, and then 3 energy onto Palkia. Actually, I think I want a little bit more. So let's put another energy onto... How do I want to do this? Yeah, let's make Palkia just a little bit more likely to be able to one-hit KO... Yeah, to one-hit KO the Keldeo. This way I only need 2 more energy on it, and my opponent is more than likely to target that thing down as opposed to my Keldeo. So, yeah, now my opponent needs 7 energy or 6 energy and a Fighting Fury Belt / Choice Band / Muscle Band. Actually, if he has a Muscle Band, then he only needs 5 energy to knock out my Palkia. So it'll be interesting to see what my opponent goes for on this turn. So he plays the energy onto Keldeo. My opponent, okay, there's a computer search, so that basically once you have the computer search, that essentially guarantees the fact that you're going to be able to pull in Archies for a Blastoise. I mean, that's just kind of sort of how it goes. But either way, my opponent is going to be able to pull that off. And like, I would rather that my opponent was able to get things going too, because I mean, that just makes for a more interesting and a more fun game. So my opponent Ultra Balls for Suicune, which could be interesting. They must have the Archies as the last in the hand, or a VS Seeker. I mean, that works too. But yeah, so he's going to Archies. He's going to be able to get that Blastoise up, and let's hope that my opponent doesn't pull off the 6 energy, because if he does get the 6 energy, then that's going to put us in a... It's going to put us in a pretty tricky slot. Yeah, my opponent does have only a single bench spot left. He does flip heads on the order pad. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. Grabs a Battle Compressor, so my opponent must have a superior energy retrieval in their hand. So yeah, it does look like my opponent will get the 6 energy, and they need one more... Yeah, they need 1 more energy in their hand. Like, they need to somehow draw into another one. Like, the 4 that he will be able to get off superior energy retrieval will be just 4 energy short. And unfortunately, Palkia is going to go down. I really would have liked to use... have used Zero Vanish GX in this against this opponent, because that would be absolutely incredible, just because it shuts down the graveyard. Wow, I've been watching too many Yu-Gi-Oh videos. The discard pile access for like superior energy retrieval. So that would be absolutely ideal if I'd be able to do that. But okay, my opponent gets the 4 energy, and then is going to be able to... Is he going to get all that he needs? I mean, he's attaching to Keldeo, so he must have... He must either have the 5th energy, or he has the 4th. Or he's kind of digging. Oh, there's a choice band. Okay, so now my opponent is going to be able to knock out my Palkia. Man, that was a lucky choice. That was a lucky Trainer's Mail. Wait, puts it on the Suicune. He must have the 7 energy then. Because if he put it on the Suicune, and yeah, because all he would have needed was just 5 energy in the choice band to knock me out. So if he doesn't have 2 more energy in his hand, well, I mean, we already know he has 1 more because of superior energy retrieval. So unless he doesn't have that last energy in his hand, he won't be able to... yes, he does. Okay, well, that is slightly unfortunate, but either way, I mean, he's going to knock me out. I will lose Palkia, but I still have my Keldeo with 3 energy, and this is why I didn't want to load up quite a bit. And what is my opponent doing with Exeggcute? I have... must have like an Ultra Ball as the last in his hand or something. Yeah, he must. So what's he grabbing? Is it going to be like a Shaymin? Yep, it's going to be a Shaymin. So my opponent will get a fresh hand of 6 cards, and that makes me feel a lot better about ending him this coming turn. Because, I mean, if I had end him out of like a hand of... if I had end him out of a hand of 3, I would have felt kind of bad because that would have given him an extra card. But at the same time, now that he played the Shaymin down, I feel much better because not only do I get a fresh hand of 5, it also is a detriment to him. Plays the energy onto the Suicune, and quite frankly, I'm okay with my opponent playing down Suicune. Just because that thing isn't... like, that thing isn't a particularly huge threat. Does Battle Compressor more energy to the discard pile? That means they probably have a... okay, good. They weren't able to get that superior energy retrieval off the Order Pad, but they do get Trainers Mail into an Acrobike. I'm curious... because my opponent's starting to thin a lot, but I mean, then again, I've thinned a lot too, and this is a type of deck where once you get everything set up, you don't really draw a whole lot of cards, and yeah, the Secret Sword is going to be able to knock me out, meaning that I do lose 4 energy, but at the same time, I do have the Keldeo still, and all I need is 3 more energy on it in order to get the knockout, but I actually get a Wishiwashi. This could be really nice, because Wishiwashi is able to knock out in one hit, or knock out Keldeo in one hit with its GX attack, but it also will not... yeah, you know what? I think I'm actually going to go for this, but then it also preserves my energy and will not go down in one hit, so as long as I get a superior energy retrieval, I should be able to get the knockout, or I should be able to get the sufficient energy. Well, actually, if I get a superior energy retrieval, I will be able to get the sufficient energy in order to knock out this Keldeo with my Blue Surge GX while moving all the energy onto another attacker. So that's exactly what I'm going to go for. There are 2 superior energy retrievals in my deck. I'm really, really banking on getting one of those, and I do. Oh, that is gorgeous. So let's go ahead and do that. Grab all 4 energy from my discard pile. I mean, to be fair, I only needed 3, but I mean, if you have a superior, why not go ahead and grab 4? And yeah, you know what? I don't think I need Volcanion in this game. So let's get rid of that thing and Exeggcute, just because, I mean, I'm going to have a full bench anyway. So let's grab those 4 energy. Let's play the Keldeo down, because that's who I'm going to move my energy onto after I attack with Wishiwashi. And then let's force my opponent to have either a Guzma or a... yeah, Guzma or a Lysander to bring up Blastoise or bring up one of my attackers, and if they go for that, then they will obviously not be able to play a supporter and have more access to the energy and mons that they would need in order to get a one-hit knockout. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of bank off that at this point. Let's move the energy onto Wishiwashi, load that thing up completely, play this energy onto the other Keldeo, and then retreat into Wishiwashi and go for a Blue Surge GX. So yeah, I will have to move all the energy off of me, but at the same time, like, I took a KO without offering up a KO to my opponent. Suicune does have 180 HP, so I think I'm just going to load up one Keldeo. How do I want to do this? Because I don't have any more in the discard pile, so I think I'm just going to fully load up this one while having another one in the back that I can use to knock out Shaymin in order to take 2 prizes to try to win the game off of that. So I think that's going to be how I'm going to play. I'm going to try to play this upcoming turn. I can always just rush in with my Keldeos if he does find a way to, like, strand or try to strand my Wishiwashi active. He acrobikes, gets rid of an Order Pad. I'm wondering what my opponent is looking for. Because like I said, Sudowoodo is actually coming through insanely clutch right now, because my opponent is not able to put a Keldeo down onto the bench, like, because of that last slot and the fact that he played a Volcanion down there, so he's playing a switching Pokemon. My opponent was not able to play both a Keldeo and, like, a Shaymin or a Lele in order to get cards. My opponent just had to play down an attacker or a support, leaving himself with a very, like, low... I don't want to say, like... Basically, Suicune does not take one-hit KOs. Plain and simple. Suicune doesn't take one-hit KOs on big GXs, and I really do not have to worry at this point, I do not think. But my opponent is going to go ahead and Deluge a couple times. Just power up the Suicune. I mean, I do have Rough Seas that I can just bring Wishiwashi into the back and heal it up, but my opponent is going to Jet Geyser. So how do I want to do this? So let's go ahead and actually put up Sudowoodo, I think. Because as much, I mean, as great as Sudowoodo has been in this game, I think that at this point it has run its course and has done what it needs to do to put me in a position to win. Because at this point, he'll be able to take a knockout, he'll be in an odd prize game. Now, all I have to do is knock out the Suicune, and if my opponent is not able to... All I have to do is just knock out the Suicune, and then all I have to do is just bring up the Shaymin later, and I will be able to win the game. So, let's see. I think at this point, I'm just going to VS Seeker for a Juniper, just so I can, like, play everything down, just so an N doesn't hurt me that much. I still have the Guzma in the discard pile for a VS Seeker later in the game, and let's make it even more difficult for my opponent to knock me out. Let's play a Fighting Fury Belt onto my Keldeo. And honestly, I'm just going to hold on to everything in my hand because any one of those cards on an N to 1 would be phenomenal for me to draw. Like a Shaymin, Order Pad, Superior Energy Retrieval, Ultra Ball, VS Seeker, all of those. I probably said VS Seeker first. Like, all of those would be phenomenal to draw off an N to 1. Unfortunately, these two cards are not two cards that you really want to see off of an N to 1. Like, both are my prizes, Articuno and an Energy. Like, they're nice, but they're not overly helpful. So basically, I just wanted to maximize the odds that I drew into something off a potential N that would win me the game. Because without N, I win. Plain and simple, I will win this game. I have the VS Seeker for the Guzma that will bring up the Shaymin that I can knock out. And yeah, my opponent does just concede the match right there. We are able to take the game, and oh, I didn't realize I was doing a Dragon Daily challenge, but cool, nice, go Palkia. But yeah, so that is going to be the game, and I think this is a little bit shorter than normal, but I think that that was a good enough game and that was a long enough game that I think I'm just going to call it there. This was a super, super fun deck to revisit with new cards, and it was, yeah, I highly encourage you guys to try this deck out if you can. It's just super fun to be able to pull off the type of turn 1 plays that you're able to in this deck, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.